what is a mastermind, the power of a mastermind, and sort of how has the mastermind served some of the members of the guild and us as law firm owners. So, Tyson, why don't you explain to people who might not know or know the concept of a mastermind, sort of what is it?
Yeah, so what it is, it's the first time I was ever introduced to it was, through John Fisher's mastermind. I had no idea what it is. And I had heard the concept before, but I'd never really been to one. But it's really what it is. It's about synergy and really wisdom and shared goals. And it's really about, getting in a room and you're open, you're vulnerable. You tell you tell other law firm owners what you're struggling with, and then other law firm owners that are in the same room with you that have been there before or that are going through the same things that you're going through. They help dissect that issue and then help solve the problem is really what it is. And they do that through a lot of asking questions. Sometimes they will ask pointed questions. Sometimes they will give you the advice that you don't want to hear, but you need to hear. And we've seen quite a few breakthroughs over the years by doing these. And it is an extreme. The reason why we do it 4 times a year is because it's an extremely valuable thing for members to do.
Yeah, I've really enjoyed the masterminds. I've always gotten things out of it, like you said, by hearing the advice that other people give. But it's such an interesting dynamic. I mean, you're again, we talked earlier about working on your business. So these are law firm owners who are willing and able to step away from their firm for a Thursday afternoon and an all-day Friday to go and share and listen to other law firm owners talk about the issues that they're trying to overcome. Those hot seats are powerful when you're quote unquote on the hot seat. You're going to go for 5 or 10 minutes about what's bothering you, and then everyone's going to tell you how dumb you are and how you need to think about this and that. And then for me, I'm taking a ton of notes because you can hear things from people who have a law firm that's a year old. You can hear from people who have a law firm that's 20 years old, and you'll get great value out of that. But for me, the real value of the mastermind comes from when I tell other people what they're doing wrong, because invariably that is something that I need to hear. I tell the story about one of our mastermind members who was talking about, I just want to sign up cases and bring in as many cases as I can and then let everybody else figure out how to deal with all those cases. And I really got sort of indignant at that person. And then I realized that that person was me, that's what I was doing. That's what I wanted to do. I just wanted to grow at breakneck speed, not give any real sense to capacity and to, how much the team could actually produce. And so that really struck me when I was telling him how dumb he was, when really I was talking to myself.
Yeah. So, and we're big on confidentiality, so we're not going to mention any names or anything. But there was a member in one of ours in our group where um, he is struggling because he runs the firm, but he wants to get back into the litigation and wants to get back into trying the cases, and he's sort of given that stuff up. And I it's interesting because as I was giving my feedback and asking questions, I was kind of thinking like, this is something that I struggle with. This is something that I've been through as well. And I think we came up with a really good plan for him to pivot and get back into the courtroom like he wants to, because like that's where his passion is. And I think it's absolutely okay to pivot and shift where, like, you have a vision for something and you figure out, okay, that's not quite where I wanted things to be. I want to shift, and my vision has changed a little bit, and that's great. But I think that there were a lot of great breakthroughs that he had that's going to allow him to get to fulfill that true vision that he has for what he wants out of his career. And I think there's a lot of great breakthroughs. But to your point, though, it was interesting because as I was hearing him talk initially, I'm thinking like, oh, this is, I know this exact struggle. You're right. That's how it is. Sometimes with the advice you're giving is the advice that you're really telling to yourself.
And the concept of a mastermind comes from Napoleon Hill, which in his book Think and Grow Rich, he talks about the power of the mastermind. That, in other words, it's the collective. I always tell people at the beginning of our time together, I was like, this is the one time where the 14 of us or the 16 of us, the one time we're going to be together, this particular group. And it really is the collection of all those minds thinking really hard. When you're done with those days, it's like sitting through depositions all day. It's like you've been doing intent listening and hopefully, chiming in here and there. It's not for the faint of heart, but when I think about masterminds, I think about a couple of quotes, which are, you are the sum total of the five people you spend the most amount of time with. That's something that I think really comes through, that if you're in these rooms and you're talking to people and you're trying to succeed, then you're really not with people who are losers or people who are just Debbie Downers and those kinds of people. The other quote that comes to mind when it comes to the mastermind is, if you're the smartest person in the room, you're probably in the wrong room. So we all have something to learn. Tyson and I always come away from the mastermind learning things about our particular law firms that we can either, it's during the actual hot seats, and then the other thing that I should mention is that, to me, some of the best value out of the mastermind have been those offhand, sideways conversations with people, the dinner after, the lunch during, the breakfast, talking to people, and you never know where the next best idea is going to come from. So if this is something that interests you, you should think about joining the guild, because you have to be a member of the guild to join. And our next mastermind is going to be in Miami, and I'm looking it up. It's on Thursday, October 19th, and Friday, October 20th. It's going to be a lot of fun. We've already got a fairly good number of signups, so we might have a couple of extra groups, but we'd love to have you if that's something that interests you. I think it's going to be a great one. The one we just had in Denver was certainly well received, and there's also that sort of clarifying of just getting away, resetting, and just sort of having that ability to come back fresh with new ideas. And one of the last things I'll say is that one fun thing that sort of happens after the masterminds is sometimes people come back and hire new people, and that's a great thing. And then sometimes people come back and fire old people. So there's just a lot of growth. It's really just thinking of it as an accelerated opportunity to make a big jump, as opposed to the daily or weekly innovations and improvements, which are also important. This is just another way to do it, sort of on a faster pace.
Or like another member, they were going to go back and fire a long-term member, and that long-term member ended up resigning. So it was they posted in the group the other day about that, so which I thought was really interesting. It was going to be a really difficult conversation
Oh, I
for
missed that.
the member. Yeah, and so it was a big thing. Like one of my favorite parts though, and then we'll wrap things up. But one of my favorite parts though is where the accountability part, where someone will say, well, okay, you're saying that you've said this 6 months ago at another mastermind. What are you going to commit to? They'll pin them down and say, okay, are you going to do these things? What are you going to do? And I'm going to, and it forces them, because they said that they were going to do these things. They didn't do them. And now they're holding their feet to the fire, or they'll just, before it even gets to that point, they'll hold their feet to the fire before that, and they'll make them make that commitment, which I think is fantastic. That's one of my favorite parts. But you're right though. The dinner sessions where you're like afterwards, like, hey, like I thought about that a little bit. What do you think about this? Or what do you think about that? Those are always really good. But all right, Jimbo, let's wrap things up. If you do want to join the guild, you can go to maxlawguild.com. If you are interested in our mastermind in Miami, that's where the next one's going to be. Go to maxlawevents.com. So, and if you're interested in both, you can just go to maxlawevents.com and you could join and get your ticket at the same time.